Commander Tae-ho Kim stood at the window of his prison cell, watching the alien ships fly over what used to be Seoul. The massive Valkyrie warships moved slowly across the sky like dark clouds. Their engines made a deep humming sound that shook the ground. 3 months had passed since Earth surrendered to the Galactic Coalition. 3 months since humanity officially lost the war. The cell was small and clean. The aliens wanted to show they were civilized captors. They gave him decent food and let him exercise for 1 hour each day. They even allowed him to watch their news broadcasts. Today, the Zephyrian news anchor was talking about the great victory over the human threat. "The savage species has finally been contained," the alien said in its mechanical voice. "Their primitive warships have been destroyed. Their colonies are now under proper management. The galaxy is safe from human aggression." Tae-ho almost smiled. The aliens really believed they had won. They thought the war was over. They had no idea what was coming. A guard appeared at his door. The creature looked like a tall lizard wearing armor. Its yellow eyes stared at Tae-ho without emotion. "Prisoner Kim, you have a visitor." Tae-ho followed the guard down a long hallway. The walls were made of some alien metal that reflected light in strange ways. They passed other cells where human prisoners sat quietly. Most of them were military, officers like himself. All of them were part of the plan. The visitor room was larger than his cell, but just as cold. Dr. Sojin Park sat at a metal table waiting for him. She looked tired, but her eyes were alert. The doctor had been working with the aliens for 2 months now. They thought she was helping them understand human biology. They were right, but not in the way they expected. "Commander Kim," she said formally. The aliens were always listening. "I hope you are well." "As well as can be expected, Dr. Park." Tae-ho sat across from her. "How is your research progressing?" "Very well. The aliens are very interested in our biological systems. They want to make sure humans and aliens can live together peacefully." She spoke carefully, but her fingers moved under the table. She was using the old military sign language they had learned years ago. Her fingers spelled out a simple message. "Ready. Phase 2 begins soon." Tae-ho nodded slightly. "That sounds like important work. I am sure it will benefit everyone." "The Valkyrie are especially helpful," Sojin continued. "They have given me access to their medical databases. I am learning so much about their physiology." Her fingers moved again. "Weakness found. Biological plan ready." They talked for another 10 minutes about nothing important. When the visit ended, Tae-ho felt better than he had in weeks. The plan was working. The aliens thought they had captured Earth's best military minds. They had no idea those minds were still working, still planning, still fighting. That night, Tae-ho lay on his narrow bed and remembered the day Earth surrendered. He had stood on the bridge of his command ship, the Soul's Pride, and given the order to lay down weapons. The alien fleet surrounded them completely. There was no way to win a direct fight, but Admiral Jae-sung Lee had taught him something important years ago. Sometimes you have to lose a battle to win a war. Sometimes surrender is just another kind of attack. The real battle had begun months before the first alien ship arrived at Earth. While politicians tried to negotiate and generals prepared for war, a small group of humans had made a different plan. They knew humanity could not win a straight fight against 3 alien civilizations. The coalition had better technology, more ships, and thousands of years of experience, so humanity would not fight a straight fight. The surrender had been carefully planned. Every human officer who was captured had volunteered for the job. Every piece of technology the aliens seized had been prepared for them. Every human colony that fell had secret orders waiting. Captain Min-seo Lee commanded one of those colonies. Mars had been one of the first places to fall to alien control. The Red Planet's mining operations were too valuable for the aliens to destroy. They needed human workers to keep the mines running. Min-seo had been a military engineer before the war. Now she pretended to be a simple mining supervisor. The Nexus Alliance aliens who controlled Mars were traders first and soldiers second. They cared more about profits than security. That made them careless. Every day, Min-seo walked through the mining tunnels and checked on the equipment. The aliens thought she was making sure the machines worked properly. Really, she was building something else. Deep in the old tunnels, human workers had been digging new passages, not for mining, for hiding, weapons, supplies, and communication. Equipment disappeared from alien inventories in small amounts. Nothing big enough to notice. A few laser rifles here, some food rations there, medical supplies, computer parts. Over months, it added up to enough for a small army. But Minseo's most important job was recruitment. She identified humans who could be trusted, former soldiers who worked as mechanics, scientists who repaired alien equipment, even children who could carry messages. The resistance network grew slowly and carefully. The aliens had rules about human gatherings. No more than 5 humans could meet together without alien supervision. So Minseo organized meetings of 4. She would meet with 3 other cell leaders. Each of them would meet with 3 more. The network spread like roots under the ground. Tonight was special. Minseo sat in her small apartment and waited. At exactly midnight, her communication device beeped softly. The message was hidden inside what looked like a work report about mining output, but every 7th word spelled out something different. Phase 2 authorized. Begin preparation. Stay ready. Across the galaxy, similar messages reached other human cells. On the ocean world of Kepler 442b, fishing boat captain Dongwoo Choi received orders while pretending to repair nets. In the asteroid belt, mining engineer Yu Jin Han found instructions hidden in equipment manuals. On a dozen worlds, in 100 cities, humans who seemed defeated prepared to fight back. The aliens celebrated their victory and made plans for the future. They divided human territory among themselves like splitting a meal. The Velkari Empire took the military bases and shipyards. The Zephyrian Collective claimed the research stations and universities. The Nexus Alliance grabbed the trade routes and mining operations, but they all wanted the same thing: human workers. Humans were good at solving problems and working in dangerous conditions. The aliens had studied human history and seen how adaptable the species was. They thought this made humans useful slaves. They did not realize it also made humans dangerous enemies. War Marshal Keth Tar of the Velkari stood in his command center on Earth's moon. Through the large windows, he could see Earth turning slowly in space. The blue and green planet looked peaceful now. No more human warships, no more orbital defenses, just a quiet world full of defeated creatures. "Marshal," his aide reported, "the human shipyards on Europa are ready for conversion. We can begin producing Velkari vessels using human workers within 2 months. Keth Tar nodded his massive head. "Good. And the human military leaders?" "All in secure detention. They seem resigned to their fate. Some are even cooperating with our research teams. Excellent. The humans fought bravely, but they understand when they are beaten. This is why they will make good servants." If Keth Tar had known what Commander Taeho Kim was really thinking in his cell, he would not have felt so confident. If he had seen the messages being passed between human workers on a dozen worlds, he would have increased security immediately. If he had understood what Dr. Sojin Park was really learning about alien biology, he would have canceled her research and locked her away. But the aliens saw what they expected to see: a defeated enemy, broken and ready to serve. They had won every battle. They controlled every human world. They held every important human leader prisoner. The war was over. Humanity had lost. That was exactly what humanity wanted them to think. 6 months after the surrender, strange things began happening across human space. At first, the problems seemed small and random. A supply ship would arrive at its destination missing half its cargo. A communication relay would stop working for no clear reason. Alien soldiers would get sick with mysterious fevers. The Galactic Coalition blamed these incidents on poor human maintenance and the chaos that followed any war. They increased security in some places and replaced human workers with aliens in others. But the problems continued. Dr. Sojin Park walked through the medical research facility on Luna Station. The building had once been a human research center, but now alien scientists worked there alongside human assistants. The aliens thought they were studying human biology to better understand their new subjects. They had no idea what Sojin was really doing. "Dr. Park," called Zormak, her Zephyrian supervisor. The tall, thin alien approached with his usual mechanical movements. "How is your work on human-alien medical compatibility progressing?" Very. Well, Supervisor Zormak. Sojin held up a data tablet. I have completed genetic analysis of 17 different human populations. The results show significant diversity in our immune systems and metabolic processes. This was true, but Sojin was not studying human diversity to help the aliens understand their prisoners. She was mapping the genetic differences between humans and their captors. Every tissue sample she examined, every blood test she ran, every DNA sequence she analyzed went into a secret database. The aliens wanted to know if humans could catch alien diseases, so Jin was learning which alien diseases could be modified to target only aliens. Excellent work, Zormak said. Your species may be primitive, but you show remarkable dedication to scientific research. Sojin smiled politely and said nothing. The Zephyrians believed emotion was inefficient and logic was supreme. They could not understand that humans might work hard for reasons other than personal benefit. They definitely could not imagine that. A human might spend months gathering information to use as a weapon. Later that day, Sojin met with maintenance worker Hyun-Woo Song in the facility's cafeteria. To any observer, they were just two humans eating a quiet meal together. But under the table, Sojin passed Hyun-Woo a small data chip containing detailed information about Zephyrian biology. Hyun-Woo was not really a maintenance worker. Before the war, he had been a biochemist specializing in genetic modification. Now he cleaned floors and repaired ventilation systems in alien facilities. But in his hidden laboratory, deep in the Luna underground, he was developing something that would change the war completely. Meanwhile, on Mars, Captain Min-Seo Lee was having her own problems. The Nexus Alliance had increased security after several supply shipments went missing. Trade Captain Vorgon, the alien commander of Mars operations, had called a meeting of all human supervisors. Losses are unacceptable, Vorgon announced to the gathered humans. The alien looked like a cross between an octopus and a lobster, with multiple arms and a hard shell. 15% of cargo has disappeared in the last month. This impacts profit margins. Min-Seo listened carefully while appearing concerned. The Nexus Alliance cared about money more than anything else. They saw everything in terms of profit and loss. This made them predictable, which made them vulnerable. We will implement new security measures, Vorgon continued. All cargo will be scanned twice. All human workers will be monitored more closely. Any theft will result in severe punishment. After the meeting, Min-Seo walked back to her quarters. She moved slowly and looked tired, like someone defeated by circumstance, but her mind was racing. Increased security would make their operations more difficult, but not impossible. They just needed to be more careful. That night, she sent a coded message through the underground network. The message reached engineering teams across the solar system. Within hours, human workers in alien facilities began reporting malfunctions in monitoring equipment. Security cameras developed dead pixels. Motion sensors became less sensitive. Communication systems started having interference problems. The aliens noticed these problems, but blamed them on poor maintenance by defeated humans. They did not realize the humans were sabotaging their own work on purpose. Engineer Dongwoo Choi was one of those humans. He worked in the Valkyrie shipyards above Europa, helping to convert human manufacturing facilities for alien use. The Valkyrie were the most militaristic of the three alien races. They built their ships for war and conquest, but they also believed in efficiency. When they found humans who understood their technology, they put those humans to work building better ships faster. This was exactly what Dongwoo had hoped for. During his years in the human navy, Dongwoo had been a specialist in ship construction and computer systems. He understood how to build warships and how to program their computers. Now he was using that knowledge to build weaknesses into every alien vessel that passed through his facility. The changes were small and invisible, a minor modification to the navigation system that would activate only when triggered by a specific signal. A slight adjustment to the weapons control software that would cause targeting errors under certain conditions. A backup subroutine in the life support computers that could shut down air circulation if activated remotely. Each modification was buried deep in the ship's systems and disguised as normal operation code. The alien inspectors who checked his work saw nothing wrong. They were impressed by how quickly this human worker had learned their technology. Dongwoo was not the only human making such modifications. Across a dozen shipyards, human engineers and technicians were building flaws into the Galactic Coalition's new fleet. When the time came, those flaws would turn the aliens' own ships against them. Lieutenant Yujin Han had perhaps the most dangerous job of all. She worked as a translator and cultural advisor for Zephyrian intelligence. The aliens thought her job was helping them understand human psychology and behavior. Really, she was learning everything she could about alien military operations. The Zephyrians trusted logic above all else. They believed humans were too emotional to be effective spies or soldiers. This blind spot made Yujin nearly invisible to them. They saw her as a useful tool, not a potential threat. Every day, Yujin translated intercepted human communications for her alien supervisors. Most of these messages were innocent. Family letters, business communications, personal notes between friends. But some contained hidden meanings that only she could see. A letter from a grandfather to his granddaughter mentioned planting seeds in the spring garden. To the aliens, this seemed like normal family conversation. Yujin knew it meant resistance. Cells were being established in the Centauri system. A business message about delayed shipments due to quality control issues looked like normal commercial problems. But it really meant sabotage operations were proceeding on schedule. Yujin compiled regular reports for the Zephyrians about human morale and potential resistance activities. These reports always concluded that humans were too demoralized and disorganized to pose any real threat. The aliens believed every word, but Yujin's most important work happened after hours. Using her access to Zephyrian computer networks, she copied classified information about alien fleet movements, base locations, and security procedures. This intelligence was carefully hidden in seemingly innocent communications and passed to resistance cells throughout human space. The information network was growing larger every day. On Earth, humans who worked as janitors and cooks in alien facilities overheard conversations and passed along intelligence. On colony worlds, farmers and miners reported what they saw to hidden resistance coordinators. Even children played their part, carrying messages between adults without understanding their importance. The aliens saw none of this. They saw defeated humans going about their daily lives under occupation. They saw workers who complained about conditions but still did their jobs. They saw a species that had accepted its fate and was learning to live under alien rule. Commander Tae-ho Kim knew better. From his prison cell, he received regular updates through the intelligence network. The updates came hidden in letters from family members, disguised as personal news and everyday conversations. His sister wrote about her garden. The tomatoes are growing well, but the carrots need more time. This meant biological weapons development was progressing, but cybernetic infiltration needed more work. His nephew mentioned school. Math class is getting easier, but history is still hard. This translated to sabotage operations were succeeding, but intelligence gathering remained challenging. His old friend from the Navy talked about his new job. The work is boring, but my boss seems happy with my performance. This meant infiltration was proceeding smoothly without arousing suspicion. Each message told Tae-ho that the grand plan was working. The aliens thought they had won the war and captured the leaders of human resistance. They had no idea that the real war had not even begun yet. The prisoners in the detention center followed careful routines. They exercised together, ate meals together, and spent hours in seemingly innocent conversation. The alien guards saw defeated officers passing time and staying out of trouble. Really, they were coordinating the next phase of human resistance. The seeds had been planted. Now it was time for them to grow. 18 months after Earth's surrender, the galaxy trembled with the first real signs of human resistance. But the aliens did not recognize it as resistance. They thought they were dealing with system failures and natural disasters. It began at 0300 Standard Galactic Time on a Tuesday. Military installations across 3-star systems went dark simultaneously. Communication arrays stopped transmitting. Radar systems showed empty screens. Weapon platforms powered down. Even backup systems failed to activate. On the Velkari command ship destroyer of worlds, War Marshal Keth Tar stared at his tactical display in confusion. Red warning lights flashed across the screen as base after base reported total system failure. "Report!" Keth Tar roared at his communication officer. "Sir, we have lost contact with 14 installations in the Kepler system. 9 bases in the Wolf Sector and 6 facilities in the Proxima region, the officer replied, his voice shaking. All losses occurred within a 15-minute window. Impossible. Systems do not fail simultaneously across multiple star systems. This must be an attack. Sir, our sensors show no enemy ships in any of the affected areas. No weapons fire detected. No signs of sabotage. The system simply stopped working. Keth Tar's massive claws scraped against the command chair. In over 200 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. Begin full system diagnostics on all remaining installations. Increase security alerts to maximum level. What Keth Tar did not know was that the failures were not failures at all. They were activations. Deep in the asteroid belt, tech specialist Narration sat in a hidden command center carved out of rock and metal. Banks of computers surrounded her, their screens glowing with data streams and command codes. For months, she had been slowly infiltrating alien computer networks. Not to steal information, but to plant something much more dangerous. Phase 3 is live, Nari announced to her team. All primary targets have accepted the activation signal. Secondary targets coming online now. The computers around her showed the results of 18 months of careful preparation. Every alien facility that used human workers had unknowingly allowed human programmers access to their systems. Those programmers had installed tiny pieces of code that looked like normal system updates or maintenance routines. But when activated by the right signal, those innocent-looking programs became weapons. On a Zephyrian research station in the Vega system, all the environmental controls suddenly began working backwards. The air recycling system started removing oxygen instead of adding it. The water purification plants began introducing toxins instead of removing them. The gravity generators fluctuated wildly, making it impossible for anyone to stand upright. The Zephyrian scientists tried to regain control of their systems, but the computers refused to accept their commands. Every input they entered was ignored, or reversed. Within hours, they had to evacuate the station completely. Similar scenes played out across alien space. Weapon systems turned on their own ships. Navigation computers began plotting courses into stars. Manufacturing plants started producing broken equipment instead of functional tools. But the cyber attack was only the first part of the awakening protocol. In her laboratory beneath Luna Station, Dr. So-Jin Park received the signal she had been waiting for. It came hidden in a routine medical supply delivery, a simple change in the order of items on the shipping manifest. But for So-Jin, it meant 18 months of secret research was about to pay off. She walked to a secure storage locker and removed several sealed containers. Inside were samples of modified bacteria and viruses, each one carefully engineered to target specific alien physiologies. The Velkari with their rapid metabolisms, the Zephyrians with their enhanced nervous systems, the Nexus Alliance with their complex circulatory patterns. So-Jin had spent months studying alien biology under the pretense of medical research. She knew exactly how each species processed food, fought infection, and maintained cellular function. And she knew how to disrupt all of those processes. The biological weapons were not designed to kill immediately. That would be too obvious and might trigger quarantine procedures that would limit their spread. Instead, they caused symptoms that looked like natural illnesses, fevers, nausea, fatigue, and confusion. But these symptoms were severe enough to disable alien personnel for weeks at a time. And they spread quickly through alien populations who had no natural immunity to Earth-based pathogens. So-Jin began introducing her creations into the Luna Station's air recycling system. Within days, every alien on the station would be too sick to work effectively. Similar releases were happening at facilities across human space as other human scientists activated their own biological weapons. The third component of the awakening protocol was the most direct. Engineer Dongwoo Choi stood in the main control room of the Velkari shipyard above Europa. Around him, alien supervisors frantically tried to understand why their newest warships were refusing orders. The vessels had been performing normally during testing, but now their computers seemed to have developed minds of their own. The navigation system is locked, reported one technician. I cannot input new coordinates. Weapons targeting is completely offline, said another. The computers show error messages in some unknown language. Dongwu hid his smile. The unknown language was Korean, and the error messages were telling the ship's computers to ignore all commands from non-human sources. Every vessel that had passed through his facility now carried hidden programming that would activate when triggered. But Dongwu's most important work was about to begin. He moved to a maintenance terminal and entered a complex sequence of commands. To any observer, it looked like he was running standard diagnostic procedures. Really, he was activating the final phase of his sabotage. Across the shipyard, human workers received subtle signals, a change in the lighting pattern, a specific announcement over the communication system, a particular maintenance alarm. These signals told them it was time to reveal their true purpose. The humans had not been building alien ships. They had been building weapons for humanity. Hidden manufacturing facilities throughout the asteroid belt began powering up. These facilities had been constructed in secret over the past 18 months, using materials that had been stolen from alien supply lines. They looked like abandoned mining operations or forgotten research stations. In reality, they were shipyards, producing a new generation of human warships. Captain Min-Seo Lee received her activation signal while inspecting mining equipment on Mars. The message came through the same communication network she had helped build, but this time, it carried different instructions. Phoenix is rising. Prepare for extraction. Min-Seo felt a mixture of excitement and fear. After 18 months of pretending to be a defeated mining supervisor, she was finally going to be a soldier again. Around the solar system, thousands of other humans were receiving similar messages. Teachers, farmers, janitors, cooks, mechanics, all of them were about to reveal their true identities. The resistance network that had grown slowly and carefully in the shadows was about to step into the light. But first, they had to deal with the immediate consequences of their cyber attack. On Earth, the alien occupation forces struggled to maintain control as their systems failed around them. Zephyrian administrators could not access their databases. Velkari security forces found their surveillance networks completely offline. Nexus Alliance trade coordinators watched helplessly as their logistics computers began deleting crucial shipping information. Lieutenant Yu-Jin Han, still working as a translator for Zephyrian intelligence, offered her assistance in solving the crisis. She volunteered to help decode the strange error messages appearing on alien systems and suggested ways to restore functionality. The aliens accepted her help gratefully. They had no idea she was actually making their problems worse. Every solution Yu-Jin provided included hidden flaws that would cause new failures later. Every system she repaired carried additional hidden programming. Every piece of advice she gave was designed to make the aliens more dependent on human technical assistance. By the end of the first week, alien facilities throughout human space were operating at less than 30% efficiency. Computer systems crashed randomly. Biological weapons spread through alien populations. Spacecraft refused to follow orders. Manufacturing plants produced defective equipment. The Galactic Coalition convened emergency meetings to address the crisis. Their best scientists and engineers worked around the clock to find solutions, but every fix they implemented seemed to create new problems. What they did not understand was that the crisis was not random. It was coordinated, and it was just the beginning. In his prison cell, Commander Tae-ho Kim watched alien news broadcasts with satisfaction. The reports tried to downplay the problems, but he could read between the lines. The awakening protocol had exceeded all expectations. The aliens had thought the war was over. They had believed humanity was defeated and broken. They had assumed their superior technology and numbers made them invincible. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Late at night, when the guards were not watching carefully, Tae-ho used the old prisoner communication system. Tapping on. Walls in a code developed decades ago. The message spread through the detention facility from Cell T. 2 years after their supposed defeat, humanity revealed its true strength. The galaxy learned that what they thought was surrender had actually been preparation. Operation Phoenix began with the arrival of ships that should not have existed. Admiral Jae-sung Lee stood on the bridge of the battleship New Seoul, watching his fleet emerge from the asteroid fields where they had hidden for months. Around him, dozens of warships powered up their engines and activated weapon systems. These were not the crude vessels that had fought the First War. They were something entirely new. "Admiral, all ships report ready," announced his tactical officer, Captain Sun Hee-yoon. "Phoenix Fleet is at full operational capacity." Jae-sung nodded grimly. "Begin Operation Phoenix. All ships engage your targets." The hidden fleet moved with precision that surprised even their enemies. Human ships that had been secretly constructed in asteroid facilities struck at carefully chosen targets across 3 star systems. But these were not random attacks. Every target had been selected for maximum strategic impact. On the Valkyrie fortress world of Kepler 438b, War Marshal Keth Tar watched in disbelief as unknown warships appeared on his sensors. The vessels moved with impossible coordination, striking at communication relays, supply depots, and command centers simultaneously. "How many ships?" Keth Tar demanded. "Sensors indicate at least 40 vessels, sir, but their energy signatures do not match any known design in our databases." "Human ships?" "Impossible, sir. We destroyed the human fleet 2 years ago. These vessels show advanced technology beyond human capabilities." Keth Tar's massive jaw tightened. He was beginning to suspect they had made a terrible mistake about human capabilities. The Phoenix Fleet ships were indeed human-built, but they incorporated technology stolen and reverse-engineered during the occupation period. Every alien device that human workers had been ordered to repair had been secretly studied. Every piece of equipment that passed through human facilities had given up its secrets. Captain Sun Hee-yoon led a squadron of the new fighters against a Zephyrian patrol fleet. The alien ships moved with their usual mechanical precision, but Sun Hee's pilots flew with something the aliens could not match: anger. "Remember what they did to our worlds," Sun Hee told her pilots over the communication system. "Remember our families under occupation. Show them what humans do when we fight for real." The human fighters moved like a school of fish, each pilot anticipating the other's actions without needing orders. They struck fast and disappeared before the aliens could respond effectively. Within minutes, half the Zephyrian patrol was disabled or destroyed. But the space battles were only part of Operation Phoenix. On occupied worlds throughout human space, the real war was beginning. General Ho Jin Kang had spent 2 years pretending to be a simple maintenance worker on the mining world of Kepler 452b. The Nexus Alliance had put him in charge of keeping their equipment working properly. They had no idea he was actually a former Special Forces commander who had been preparing for this moment. When the signal came, Ho Jin activated sleeper cells that had been hidden throughout the planet. Farmers became soldiers. Teachers became saboteurs. Even children helped by carrying weapons and supplies to hidden locations. The uprising was swift and merciless. Alien guards who had grown comfortable and careless found themselves facing organized military resistance instead of defeated civilians. Communications towers exploded. Transportation hubs were seized. Administrative centers were captured before their occupants knew they were under attack. Ho Jin led the assault on the planetary command center personally. His team moved through the building like ghosts, neutralizing security systems that had been compromised months earlier by human technicians. The Nexus Alliance commander never had time to call for help. Similar uprisings were happening on every world where humans lived under occupation. The resistance network that had grown slowly in the shadows for 2 years finally revealed its true size and capability. On Mars, Captain Min Seo Lee led her forces in a textbook liberation operation. The mining tunnels she had claimed to be supervising were actually the foundation of an underground military base. Weapons, vehicles, and supplies that had been stolen over months were finally put to their intended use. The Nexus Alliance had relied heavily on human workers to keep Mars operations profitable. Now those same workers turned every piece of equipment into a weapon against their former captors. Mining lasers became artillery. Transport vehicles became assault platforms. Even the life support systems became weapons when the humans showed. They could control who breathed and who did not. Trade Captain Vorgan tried to organize a defense, but his communications were jammed by the same humans who had been maintaining his equipment. His security forces found their weapons would not fire properly, thanks to maintenance work performed by human technicians over the past year. Within 12 hours, Mars was completely under human control. Similar victories were being won throughout the solar system as human resistance cells revealed their true strength. But perhaps the most devastating aspect of Operation Phoenix was happening where the aliens could not see it. The biological weapons that Dr. Sojin Park and her colleagues had been developing were showing their full effectiveness. Alien personnel throughout occupied space were falling ill with mysterious diseases that their medical systems could not treat or even understand. The symptoms appeared random at first. Velkari soldiers would suddenly develop high fevers that lasted for weeks. Zephyrian administrators would suffer from neural disorders that made logical thinking impossible. Nexus Alliance traders would experience circulatory problems that left them too weak to work. But the pattern became clear when alien medical teams tried to study the diseases. Each pathogen was specifically designed to target the unique biology of its victim species. The Velkari's enhanced metabolism, which usually gave them superior strength and speed, became a weakness when infected with modified Earth bacteria that thrived in high-energy environments. The Zephyrians' artificial neural implants, which normally allowed them to process information faster than biological brains, became vulnerable to viruses that specifically attacked the interface between organic and electronic systems. The Nexus Alliance's complex multi-heart circulatory system, which let them survive in extreme environments, proved susceptible to engineered parasites that disrupted blood flow patterns. Dr. Sojin Park monitored the spread of her biological weapons from her hidden laboratory. The diseases were spreading exactly as planned, fast enough to disable alien forces quickly, but slowly enough to avoid triggering immediate quarantine measures. Phase 4, biological deployment is exceeding projections, she reported to her secret contact network. Enemy operational capacity degraded by 70% in affected areas. The aliens finally began to understand that they were facing something they had never encountered before. A species that had turned apparent defeat into victory through careful planning and patient execution. Tech specialist Nari Jung's cyber warfare campaign reached its peak as hidden programs throughout alien computer networks activated simultaneously. Ships that had been built with human assistance suddenly found their computers refusing orders. Manufacturing facilities began producing equipment that would malfunction at crucial moments. Even communication systems started encrypting messages with codes that only humans could break. The Galactic Coalition's technological advantage, which had seemed so overwhelming 2 years earlier, was disappearing as their own systems turned against them. Lieutenant Yu-Jin Han, still working within Zephyrian intelligence, provided the final piece of the puzzle. She had spent 2 years gathering detailed information about alien fleet movements, base locations, supply routes, and defensive capabilities. Now that intelligence was being used to coordinate human attacks with devastating precision. Every weakness in alien defenses had been mapped. Every supply convoy's route was known. Every commander's habits had been studied. The humans struck where the aliens were weakest and avoided where they were strongest. The result was a series of victories that seemed impossible to the aliens. How could a defeated species suddenly display such superior tactics and technology? How could humans appear to know alien plans before the aliens made them? On his flagship, Velkari War Marshal Keth Tar reviewed the disaster reports flooding in from across his territory. 40% of his fleet was disabled by computer malfunctions. Half his ground forces were sick with unknown diseases. Most of his strategic installations had been captured or destroyed. Marshal, his aide reported nervously. We have received a communication from the human forces. What do they want? Surrender terms? No, sir. They are offering us the chance to surrender. Kethtar's roar of rage echoed through the ship's corridors. The idea that humans, the species he had defeated so easily 2 years ago, would offer him surrender terms was beyond insulting. But as he looked at the tactical displays showing his crumbling empire, Kethtar began to realize a terrible truth. The humans had not been defeated 2 years ago. They had been preparing. The war the aliens thought they had won was not the real war. It had been a deception designed to make them overconfident and careless. The real war was happening now, and the humans were winning. Commander Tae-ho Kim smiled as he. The Galactic Coalition was collapsing. What had seemed like an impossible human resurgence was becoming an unstoppable force that shattered every assumption the aliens had made about their former enemies. In the emergency council chambers on the Zephyrian homeworld, 3 species that had ruled the galaxy for centuries faced the reality of their failure. The chamber's walls displayed tactical maps showing the scope of the disaster. Red zones marked human-controlled territory that expanded every day. Yellow areas indicated regions where alien forces could barely maintain control. Green spaces, representing secure coalition territory, grew smaller with each update. Zephyrian Prime Processor Ixana spoke in her mechanical voice. Analysis indicates complete failure of initial threat assessment. Human species capabilities were underestimated by a factor of 700%. War Marshal Keth Tar slammed his massive fist on the conference table. Underestimated? We destroyed their fleet. We occupied their worlds. We captured their leaders. And yet they are winning, replied Nexus Trade Admiral Vorgan. His multiple arms gestured at the tactical displays. Our losses exceed 50%. Across all sectors, economic damage approaches total collapse levels. Ixana's optical sensors focused on data streams only she could see. Evidence suggests human surrender was strategic deception. All captured military personnel appear to have been volunteers. All seized technology appears to have been prepared for capture. All occupied territories contained hidden resistance infrastructure. The truth was finally becoming clear, but it was too late to matter. Keth Tar studied the reports flowing in from his scattered forces. Every account told the same impossible story. Human forces appeared where they should not exist, using technology that should not work, with intelligence that should not be available. How? He growled. How did they hide entire fleets? How did they build advanced warships without our knowledge? How did they infiltrate our most secure facilities? The answer came from an unexpected source. In her detention cell on Kepler 442b, captured human scientist Dr. Mi Young Kim was finally willing to talk. The aliens thought 2 years of imprisonment had broken her spirit. Really, she had been waiting for the right moment to deliver a message. You want to know how we did it? Mi Young asked her Zephyrian interrogator. You want to understand how a primitive species outmaneuvered 3 advanced civilizations? Provide explanation, the interrogator demanded. Mi Young smiled for the first time in 2 years. We learned from you. We studied everything you did to us and everything you did to other species. You taught us exactly how to beat you. The interrogator's mechanical voice showed confusion. Clarification required. You always follow the same pattern. Demonstrate overwhelming force. Demand surrender. Occupy the defeated territory. Use the conquered population as workers. You did it to the Altarians. You did it to the Centauri colonies. You did it to dozens of other species. Pattern indicates efficiency. Why would successful methods be altered? Because humans don't follow patterns. We adapt. We learn. We change. Mi Young leaned forward. You know what your biggest mistake was? You believed your own propaganda. You convinced yourselves that any species capable of surrender must be inferior. You never considered that surrender might be a tactic. The interrogation was being broadcast to coalition leadership as part of their desperate attempt to understand the human strategy. Ixana processed the information with growing alarm. Human female indicates coalition victory was anticipated outcome of human planning. Surrender was intentional to achieve specific tactical advantages. Vorgan's trading instincts finally grasped the scope of the deception. They used our greed against us. We wanted human workers for our industries. We wanted human knowledge for our research. We wanted human technology for our weapons. They gave us exactly what we wanted. And while we used their people were using us, Keth Tar realized with growing horror. The full scale of human infiltration was becoming clear through intelligence reports and interrogations. Engineer Dongwu Choi, captured during the liberation of Europa, explained how human workers had sabotaged alien technology from within. Every ship you built with our help carries hidden programming, he told his captors proudly. Every weapon system we maintained has secret weaknesses. Every computer network we accessed has backdoors we can control. Tech specialist Nari Jung, still free and coordinating cyber warfare from hidden bases, sent a message directly to coalition leadership. Your own systems belong to us now. Every command you send, we see. Every plan you make, we know. Every move you consider, We are ready for. The psychological impact on alien forces was devastating. How could they fight an enemy that seemed to know their every thought? How could they trust technology that might betray them at any moment? How could they maintain morale when their own weapons might turn against them? The biological warfare campaign was proving equally effective. Dr. Sojin Park's engineered diseases were spreading through alien populations faster than medical teams could respond. The symptoms were becoming more severe as the pathogens adapted to their hosts. Velkari soldiers found their enhanced strength turning into weakness as their accelerated metabolisms burned out. Zephyrian administrators discovered their logical thinking becoming clouded as neural viruses disrupted their artificial implants. Nexus Alliance traders collapsed as circulatory disorders prevented their multiple hearts from working together. Medical projections indicate total operational incapacity within 60 days, reported the Coalition's chief medical officer. Biological agents show characteristics of engineered adaptation. Human medical knowledge exceeds previous assessments. But the aliens' most desperate attempts to regain control only made their situation worse. When Velkari forces attempted orbital bombardment of human-held worlds, hidden defense networks activated. Weapon platforms that had been supposedly destroyed years earlier rose from concealed positions. The bombardment was not only stopped but turned back against the attackers. Captain Sun Hee-yoon led the fighter squadrons that destroyed 3 Velkari bombardment cruisers above Mars. Those platforms were built and hidden during the occupation, she reported to Admiral Jae-sung Lee. Human workers convinced the aliens they were dismantling our defenses. Really, they were moving them to better positions. The aliens realized they had not just underestimated human military capability, they had completely misunderstood human psychology. Human behavior does not conform to expected patterns, Ixana reported to the Emergency Council. Previous analysis indicated humans would prioritize individual survival over group objectives. Data indicates opposite conclusion. Humans demonstrate willingness to sacrifice individual benefits for long-term group advantages. This was the key. Insight the aliens had missed. They understood species that fought for territory, resources, or dominance. They could predict the behavior of civilizations that acted from logic, greed, or fear. But humans fought for ideas, for freedom, for the right to determine their own future. These motivations made them unpredictable and extremely dangerous. General Ho Jin Kang, now openly commanding human forces on Kepler 452b, sent a message to all alien commanders in his sector. You thought we surrendered because we were afraid of dying. You were wrong. We surrendered because we were not afraid of dying. We were willing to sacrifice a generation to save our species. That is the difference between you and us. The Coalition's attempts at negotiation were met with simple responses from human commanders. When Vorgon tried to offer trade agreements and territorial concessions, Captain Min Seo Lee replied, "You had your chance to negotiate. You chose conquest instead. Now you live with the consequences." When Keth Tar proposed prisoner exchanges and ceasefire arrangements, Commander Tae-ho Kim, finally free from detention, answered, "We offered you peace once. You responded with occupation. We offered you cooperation once. You responded with slavery. We will not make those mistakes again." The aliens found themselves fighting an enemy that would not negotiate, would not compromise, and would not stop. Every victory the humans achieved made them stronger and more confident. Every defeat the aliens suffered made them weaker and more demoralized. Human forces now control 37% of previously occupied territory, Ixana reported. Coalition control reduced to 43%, remaining 20% contested. Trend projections indicate complete coalition defeat within 120 days. The 3 species that had dominated the galaxy for millennia were learning what happened when they chose the wrong enemy. They had picked a fight with the species that specialized in adaptation, endurance, and creative problem-solving. Worse, they had given that species 2 years to prepare for war while believing they were keeping them as slaves. In the depths of space, Admiral Jae-sung Lee stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched human fleets converge on their final objective, Earth itself. The liberation of humanity's homeworld would be the ultimate symbol of their victory, but it would also be a message to the galaxy. Humans were no longer the weak species that could be conquered and enslaved. They were the force that had turned. the galaxy's strongest alliance into a broken coalition of defeated enemies. The aliens had thought the fight was over when humans surrendered. They were about. 3 years after their supposed defeat, humanity stood victorious over the species that had once conquered them. Earth's blue skies were clear of alien ships. The orbital stations once again flew human flags. The homeworld was free. Admiral Jae Sung Lee watched from the bridge of his flagship as the last Galactic Coalition forces evacuated the Sol system. Their ships moved slowly, damaged and demoralized. Many carried crews weakened by biological weapons that human scientists continued to refine. Others struggled with computer systems that no longer fully obeyed their commands. "Admiral," reported Captain Sun Hee-yoon, "coalition evacuation is complete. Earth space is secure." "Thank you, Captain. Signal all ships to stand down from combat. Alert. Maintain surveillance protocols, but do not pursue the evacuating forces." Jae-sung felt no satisfaction in watching the aliens retreat. This war had never been about revenge or conquest. It had been about survival and freedom. Now that those goals were achieved, there was no pleasure in watching former enemies suffer. But there was also no mercy for those who had chosen to enslave humanity. On Earth's surface, President Eun-ji Choi stood in the rebuilt government center in Seoul. Through the large windows, she could see construction crews working to repair the damage from 3 years of occupation. The aliens had been efficient occupiers but careless stewards. They had maintained only what served their purposes and ignored everything else. "Madam President," announced her aide, "the Galactic Coalition has requested formal surrender negotiations." Yoon-ji nodded. She had been expecting this moment for months. "Are our negotiation teams prepared?" "Yes, ma'am. Fleet Admiral Junho Park will represent military interests. Ambassador Kyung-mi Lee will handle diplomatic protocol. Commander Tae-ho Kim will serve as strategic advisor." "Excellent. Schedule the negotiations for tomorrow. And make sure the coalition understands this will not be a discussion of terms. It will be a presentation of requirements." The reversal was complete. 3 years ago, humanity had been forced to accept unconditional surrender. Now the aliens would face the same choice. In the Coalition's emergency council chambers, the 3 species that had once ruled the galaxy gathered to accept their defeat. The chamber that had once been filled with confident predictions of easy victory now echoed with desperate discussions of survival. War Marshal Kethtar looked older than his 300 years. The stress of losing a war he had thought was already won had taken its toll. "How many ships do we have left in operational condition?" 17% of the original fleet, reported his aide. "Most vessels show significant system malfunctions due to human sabotage. Crew efficiency is down 70% due to ongoing biological warfare effects." Zephyrian Prime Processor Ixana spoke with less certainty than her species usually displayed. "Coalition military capacity insufficient for continued resistance. Human technological advancement exceeds all projections. Strategic position untenable." Nexus Trade Admiral Vorgon was perhaps the most shaken of the 3. His species had built their entire civilization on the belief that everything could be bought, sold, or traded. The idea of total defeat was incomprehensible to them. "What do the humans want? Territory, resources, trade agreements?" "Analysis of human communications indicates singular objective," Ixana replied. "Complete surrender. No negotiations. No compromises." Kethtar's massive claws scraped against the table. "They offer no terms? No conditions for mercy?" Human leadership has been consistent in their position. Coalition forces will surrender unconditionally or face continued warfare until total defeat. The aliens finally understood what humanity had felt 3 years earlier. The helplessness of facing an enemy too strong to defeat. The humiliation of watching their territories fall one by one. The desperation of knowing that resistance would only bring more suffering. But there was a crucial difference. When humanity surrendered, they had done so as part of a larger strategy. When the coalition surrendered, it would be because they had no other choice. The next day, the surrender negotiations took place on a neutral space station in the Centauri system. The symbolism was intentional. This was where the coalition had divided human territory among themselves 3 years earlier. Now they would return it all. Ambassador Kyung-mi Lee sat across from the alien representatives with calm professionalism. She showed no signs of triumph or anger, just the quiet confidence of someone representing the winning side. "The terms are simple," she began. "Complete withdrawal from all human space, return of all human prisoners and displaced populations, reparations for damages caused during the occupation, recognition of human sovereignty over all territories settled by our species." Vorgan's multiple arms gestured nervously. "These terms would reduce coalition territory by 40%. Our economies cannot survive such losses." "Your economies survived before you conquered human space," Kyung-mi replied evenly. "They will survive after you return it." Kethtar leaned forward aggressively. "And if we refuse? What prevents us from withdrawing to our core territories and rebuilding our strength?" Commander Tae-ho Kim spoke for the first time during the negotiations. "You can try. But you should understand something first. This war taught us about your technologies, your tactics, and your psychology. We now know how to defeat you completely if necessary." He activated a holographic display showing coalition territory. Red markers indicated the locations of hidden human assets, saboteurs, intelligence networks, biological weapons, and concealed military forces. "We have spent 3 years learning how to destroy your civilizations from within. Every major world you control has human assets in place. Every important facility has been infiltrated. Every key system has been compromised." The display zoomed in to show specific targets: military command centers, industrial complexes, government facilities, medical research stations, all marked with indicators showing human penetration. "We could end your civilizations tomorrow if we chose to," Tae-ho continued. "We are offering you the chance to survive, with dignity instead." Ixana processed the implications with mechanical efficiency. Human infiltration exceeds estimated parameters. Coalition security compromised at fundamental levels. Resistance capacity insufficient for meaningful defense. Fleet Admiral Jun-ho Park added his own perspective. "Our fleets now control strategic positions throughout the galaxy. Our technology has advanced beyond your ability to counter. Our biological weapons continue to evolve faster than your medical responses." He paused to let the implications sink in. "But we do not want to rule the galaxy. We want to be left alone to rebuild our civilization in peace. Accept our terms and this war ends. Refuse them, and we will demonstrate why humanity has become the dominant species in this galaxy." The negotiations continued for 3 days, but the outcome was never in doubt. The coalition had no choice but to accept human terms completely. The alternative was the total destruction of their civilizations. When the surrender documents were signed, Ambassador Kyung-mi Lee made a final statement. "This war began because you believed might made right. You thought superior technology, and numbers gave you the right to conquer and enslave other species. You learned that determination and intelligence can overcome any advantage." Vorgan asked the question that haunted all 3 alien species. "How? How did you turn certain defeat into total victory?" Commander Tae-ho Kim answered with the honesty that had characterized human diplomacy throughout the war. "We learned from you. We studied how you conquered other species and prepared countermeasures for every tactic you used. We turned your own methods against you. But more importantly," he continued, "we never forgot that we were fighting for our survival as a free species. You were fighting to maintain an empire. We were fighting for everything that mattered to us. That made all the difference." The aftermath of the war transformed the galaxy. The coalition's retreat left power vacuums that were filled by species that had been oppressed for centuries. Worlds that had been slave colonies became independent again. Trade routes that had enriched only the coalition opened to new participants. Humanity emerged as the galaxy's dominant military power, but they used that power differently than their predecessors. They formed defensive alliances rather than conquering empires. They shared technology instead of hoarding it. They offered protection to weaker species instead of enslaving them. Dr. Sojin Park established the Galactic Medical Cooperative using her knowledge of alien biology to develop treatments for diseases that had plagued various species for millennia. Engineer Dongwoo Choi led technological development programs that improved living conditions throughout human space. Captain Min-seo Lee founded the Colonial Defense Force, a military organization dedicated to protecting human settlements and allied worlds from future threats. Tech specialist Na Ri-jung created communication networks that allowed previously isolated species to share knowledge and coordinate peaceful cooperation. The galaxy learned a new lesson about humanity. They were not conquerors seeking to replace the coalition as galactic overlords. They were defenders who would protect their freedom and the freedom of others with overwhelming force if necessary. 10 years after the war ended, Commander Tae-ho Kim, now serving as Supreme Military Coordinator, addressed the Galactic Assembly in a speech that,